everyone, and welcome to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live. Yes, all the way live from Black Girl Studios, where we talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. Y'all, are y'all enjoying this weather? Like, spring is sprung and summer is on its way. This is my time of year. Bring me all the heat. For you winter folks that like the cold, or the fall folks that like the cool temperatures in the 40s and the 50s, sorry for you. It's our time. This my time. I love the heat. But it's been a busy week, so let me get right to my rant because I have amazing guests. The IBJ reports for years, marijuana advocates in the Indiana State House have filed bills and pushed for hearings on legislation that would allow the drugs used for medical purposes or open the doors to recreational use and decriminalization of cannabis. Their pleas fell on deaf ears for the most part, and marijuana-related bills generally suffer the same fate every time, dying in a legislative committee even as nearby states legalize the drug. Senator Rodney Pohl, but with the federal government's recent announcement that it intends to reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug with potential medical benefits, some advocates wonder if that could be the game changer that opens the floodgates for legalization in the state's 2025 legislative sessions. Some legislators think so. I think it starts the conversation in a completely different place, said Senator Rodney Pohl of Chesterton, Democrat, who has filed bills for 3 straight years that advocated for some form of legalization amid opposition from Republican leaders of the GOP-dominated legislature. Senate President Pro Tem Roderick Bray last week said he sees the debate as more relevant if the federal government makes a classification change, but hasn't said if he would be willing to consider any form of legalization. Y'all, that's the guy, Senator Pro Tem, he's the guy that assigns bills to committees. Y'all give him a call, send him an email, let him know. It's time. We're missing out. Everybody in the state of Indiana is less than 2 hours away from going to get legal cannabis. Even if you live in the center of the state, you can go to Illinois, you can go to Ohio, you can go to Michigan, you can go to Kentucky. You can get what you want. But we in Indiana, we're missing out on that revenue. Look, everybody ain't got to be a weed smoker. I'm not. It's not. If you're not a weed smoker, you're not finna turn into one. But that's revenue that we're losing out on. And prohibition doesn't work. Even with drugs that are incredibly harmful to our bodies, we see prohibition doesn't work. Good luck. But I think it's time that we legalize it and decriminalize it and let all the brothers in, my brown and black community who have suffered disproportionately getting locked up for simple possession in the state of Indiana. All right. Fox 59 reports parents left with no public comment period during final Medicaid Advisory Committee meeting before changes take effect. On July 1st, parents across Indiana who rely on the state's attendant care program to care for their severely disabled children will switch over to the Structured Family Care Program, a program many parents say will not reimburse them nearly enough. With roughly a month to go before the changes go fully into effect, the attendant care program was not included as an agenda item during the last FSSA Medicaid Advisory Committee meeting before July 1st. We're not convinced yet that the state's moving forward with the correct direction, Lindsay Hike with Indiana Families United for Care said. Hike represents several Hoosier families who rely on attendant care. She said she's not surprised there was no public comment period during Wednesday's meeting. I'm disappointed there wasn't, especially considering the Medicaid Advisory Committee was founded for that very reason. Although parents couldn't share their 2 cents, lawmakers certainly did. State Senator Shelley Yoder said several constituents she's spoken with feel overwhelmed by the amount of questions they have regarding the switchover. They don't know how to lean into these questions or whether they can trust the answers that they're going to be given, Senator Yoder said. We were told to send a list of questions and that his availability changes every single week. Guys, if you remember last week, I had Representative Pat Boy on, and she broke down the fact that we have over $3 billion available to us in our surplus that is not earmarked for anything. We also know that FSSA is $1 billion short. For some reason, the people who are in charge of the purse strings don't feel it necessary to release some of those funds to give these families the support that they need. Right? These families are suffering. They will be suffering financially as they attempt to care for their severely special needs kids. Now, you can't sit up here and tell me you are all about life and you care about families and you don't want to provide for families who are doing the best they can to care for their severely disabled children. They are talking out of both sides of their neck. But wait, there's more. The Indiana Capital Chronicle reports the Hoosier Lottery projects it'll send more than $368 million in surplus revenue to the state of Indiana, an increase from last year, according to presentations given at a Wednesday meeting. That's 10% or $32 million more than the lottery originally budgeted to deliver. The fiscal year 2024 was another outstanding year in performance and operations. It showed us that we remain healthy and that the Hoosier Lottery continues to be well positioned for success, said Donald Reddick, who spoke on behalf of the lottery's contract operations, IGT Indiana. The company handles product development, marketing, and sales and distribution services. The lottery expects to have earned an eye-popping $1.7 billion in revenue by July, which marks the end of its fiscal year. It'll have paid out $1.1 billion in prize expenses by then, according to the preliminary and unaudited data. And because the lottery surpassed its financial goals, it's expected to pay IGT Indiana an incentive payment of $20 million. If it had come up short, the performance-based contract would have required the operator to hand over a shortfall payment. Guys, the state of Indiana is getting revenue. Now, mind you, we're not getting revenue from cannabis, and we are comfortable with losing out on that revenue. But we have a surplus of $3 billion, and there are families in need, and they're about to get another over $360 million from the lottery. I'm not really sure how much money the state of Indiana actually needs to keep its AAA rating, but what good is a AAA rating if children are suffering and families are suffering? As I always say, what good is a AAA rating and you on your house and you have a hole in the roof? And we have a hole in the roof in the fact that we are not taking care of the families that need to be taken care of. Y'all, we have an opportunity to change this. We have an opportunity to elect leaders who put families first, not just talk about it, right? Not just talk about restricting women's access to reproductive health care so they can have more babies, but actually take care of the families once the babies are here. We need leaders like that because the ones in the State House right now don't seem to get it. They don't seem to understand that families need assistance when they are caring for special needs children. Guys, get involved, time, talent, or treasure, and make sure that you find a candidate that speaks to your value system so that you can get plugged in and help them in any way they need. It ain't going to be easy. Not when we have a turnout of 12%. It ain't going to be easy. But if you guys make a commitment to get involved, we can make a change in Indiana. It can happen. And it starts with turnout. So find a candidate. Let's get out here and do what we got to do. All right. That's my rant for today. Let's hear from my sponsor, Bohm's Unique Boutique.
Today's show is brought to you by Bohm's Unique Boutique. Click on the QR code. And for all Turn Left listeners, you can get a 10% discount on your order by using the code Democrat. Be sure to visit www.bohmsuniqueboutique.com.
All right. Guys, yes, 2 weeks in a row, 2 women running for the State House. One incumbent, one challenger. This is how y'all know I am like stuck in the State House. First up, I have, she just finished her rookie season in the State House. And if you ever get a chance to sit back and listen to her make arguments and make points about what's best for Hoosier families, man, you will be given an ultimate treat. I have watched her for the last 2 years just eat them up and spit them out the best way she can. Y'all give it up. Running for re-election, Dr. Victoria Garcia Wilburn for House District 32. Dr. Dub, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me back, my friend. How are you?
I'm fantastic. And the challenger. Oh, we love challengers. We love those that are not afraid to take on incumbents. Y'all give it up for the first time on Turn Left, Tiffany Stoner, candidate for State House District 25. Tiffany, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm honored that you asked me to be here.
I love it. Guys, you know, I had a lot to say in my rant. Was there anything in there that y'all wanted to comment on? I'm going to let the incumbent speak first.
Thank you, friend. You know, I thought your opening rant touched a lot of things that, you know, could really center our state into a more prosperous economic future. And when I think about, let's just talk about the lottery, for instance, and thank you for making it very clear that with that revenue, we could specifically designate some of that money to help fund our Medicaid. You know, our state Medicaid is funded 70% by the federal government. We don't reinvest back into our loved ones. We don't reinvest back into Hoosiers. And when people think about Medicaid, I sometimes, it really gets me emotional because they want to talk about Medicaid as it's only the low economic people who don't want to try, just all this very, very stigmatized view of what Medicaid is. But you touched on a program. I saw these families day in and day out every day during session. When their program was cut arbitrarily, they were infuriated and they were seeking help for those that they elected to be their voice. And I was so proud of the way our caucus responded to our families in need, to the most vulnerably medically complex children in our state. We cannot fail them. In fact, our lieutenant governor said we cannot fail them. And those cries fell on deaf ears. And I just really want people to think critically this election season. Will you continue to vote for a party just for the sake of a party? Or will you really understand what candidates are fighting for? They are fighting on your behalf. Who's taking your meetings? Who isn't? Who's offering solutions? Who isn't? Who's suggesting that the billions and billions of dollars we continue to have in surplus be used for something very noble? And who isn't? So that's my call to my constituents this year is let's back the candidates with solutions.
I love it. I love it. Tiffany, did you have anything that you wanted to comment on?
Other than I personally know a family that is deeply affected by this. They have one member of the family, the father actually, who stays home with their severely disabled child. And when this came about, not only did it come as a shock, but they really had to regroup and think about what options do they have? They have a young adult son, and this is going to affect them significantly.
It's really scary that, again, we have these folks running around talking about family values and, willing to put, women's lives at risk to birth babies. But when the babies get here, no matter how they are in the world, they're not finding the same fervor to take care of these families. Y'all hit it on the head. I love it. I love it. All right, let's get this party started. I'm going to start with our challenger, Doc, if you don't mind. Tiffany Stoner, tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. So I guess I'll just start by saying I'm running in District 5 with 25 that starts up in Lebanon, mainly the rural district of Lebanon, and goes through all of Whitestown, about 96% of Zionsville, down to half of Brownsburg, and a little tip in Claremont. So it's not only a socioeconomically diverse district, it's a demographically diverse district, and we're gonna make our way through the entire district. I have lived in Zionsville with my family for the past 25 years, so it's kind of interesting that I'm running in District 25. All four of my kids have matriculated through the through the public school system. I'm not quite an empty nester yet, but I am getting very close and have a year left. So this is perfect timing for me to really give back to the state and the community and try to represent the people of this district the best that I can. I am also a small business owner. I have been in business with my brother actually for the last 23 years. And I am a military spouse. I met my husband at Ball State when he was in the ROTC program and had recently returned back from basic training. The military has been the single most common thread throughout our marriage. I've seen him go through Ranger School, flight. We moved for flight school. I've seen him get deployed and come back. I've been through kind of every school. And so I will say, while he does serve, very much, I'm a believer that the family serves as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what, I mean, I know you said that, you wanted to give back, you're getting close to being an empty nester, but was there anything in your youth or as a young mom where, you said, I want to be in public service, I want to run for office someday?
Well, that's interesting. I don't think there was. I've always been a very passionate and active volunteer and community member. So it probably didn't take anybody surprise, and it didn't take any of my family members as a surprise. What I think really made me want to run, though, is when I learned that more people are moving out of Indiana than in. Kind of made me really nervous because as a mom of 4 kids, I selfishly want my kids to come back and live here.
Yeah.
We don't have oceans, we don't have mountains, but we have great people in Indiana. And I think as a young woman, I might think twice about coming back to live in Indiana. So I think selfishly, I want your kids, I want my kids to come back and live here. And that was one of the really precipitating factors for me getting into this.
I'm glad you brought that up because, the brain drain is real. And when we have, quality institutions like IU, Purdue, Rose-Hulman, Notre Dame, and we're educating people, to do amazing things. And they're like, yeah, I ain't staying. And we're also starting to see where our universities are having a hard time attracting talent as well. And I know when I get to Dr. Wilburn, she's going to talk about that. Dr. Wilburn, tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Sure. The current incumbent, which is kind of a phenomenal thing to say about a Democrat in Hamilton County.
Yes.
So we're going to go ahead and claim that right off the bat. I serve on Judiciary, Employment, Labor and Pension, and Family and Children. Have just really had a wonderful first term and have proven that we still have a lot more work to do. I've been so proud of what I've been able to accomplish in my first term. And the things that are enduring about me that don't change is, I'm a wife to Christopher, who's a retired IMPD officer. And most of my first session was really dedicated to him and bringing attention to maintaining a mental health and wellness state while you serve as a public safety official. And so that was just a phenomenal bill, unanimously passed at every level. I could not be more proud of the healing work that we're starting to do. And Indiana is really leading those efforts. It joins one of 7 states now mandating mental health and suicide prevention training for police, fire, and EMS.
Love it.
I'm a mom to 3 kids, just like Tiffany. In fact, Tiffany and I have been friends for quite a long time. We have daughters that were in competitive gymnastics together. So there's something to be said about gymnastics moms. We really know how to encourage, inspire, and also are hard-nosed for discipline. So I'm just looking forward to reclaiming my seat, Dana. I really am. I believe that I'm the best representative for this district. I have shown that I can work across the aisle. And more importantly, I have shown that Democrats really do good work.
Yes.
And that we, when given the ability to get bills heard, are able to get some really phenomenal pieces of legislation passed and are able to get amendments through and just do some good faith work on behalf of their district. We don't have any time. We have no more time to play into culture wars. And so this coming next session, I've got a lot of things that we need to focus on. People are already coming to me with their requests. And that is my plea to you is meet with your legislators, hold your legislators accountable, and make sure that your legislator is responsive to your needs.
So we were just talking just a moment ago, Tiffany and I were about the brain drain. I know that you are also a professor, and there was that bill that came through. There was a couple of higher ed bills last session that just made me want to pull my hair out, which is why I keep it short now. Talk about how difficult it is when our state legislators continue to write bills and hear bills that limit the pool of talent that we could get from across the country when it comes to bringing those folks to our universities, both as professors and students.
Yeah, Dana, thanks for bringing that bill up. Senate Bill 2 felt very personal to me. As somebody who was going through the promotion and tenure process last year, and then having my dossier stop at each level while this bill is being heard, the unimaginable, right? I've dedicated my life to my research and my students. Since and I'm not claiming that I'm the sole responsibility for this, but since my arrival to my department, our program has increased 20 spots on
Wow.
U.S. rankings and news. Yes, we were in the 40s.
Claim
Now
it. You did it. Come on, sis, claim it.
we're the #1 occupational therapy program in the state at Indiana University. And in order to attract nationally ranked faculty, you have to trust the people that you're putting in the institution. Now, we are held accountable by not only tenure, but we're also held accountable every year and every class through our course evaluations, where students get to tell us about how they feel about our instruction, about our delivery, about perhaps any bias they think we may have had, how well our content was presented, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So unfortunately, Senator Deary from up there in Lafayette was creating problems that don't exist.
Right.
What a waste of taxpayer time. What a waste of taxpayer time. I don't understand the genesis of that bill other than this is another attack on public instruction, and this time in the higher education sector.
I love it. I love it. Man, you are so concise. See, this is what you get when you listen to the General Assembly sessions with our amazing, amazing candidates. Now, check this out. This is always a fundraiser. So click on the donate link so you can donate to our candidates tonight. You can do a generous one-time donation, or you could do a modest monthly recurring donation. There's always ways for you to help our candidates out, but please consider clicking on the link and helping our candidates, because they got to get yard signs. They got to buy water for their volunteers to go to knock doors this summer, and it gets hot. So guys, if you have a couple of bucks, please consider donating to our candidates. All right. Tiffany, you mentioned that you are a business owner. And one of the things that we're starting to see in the State House, and I know Dr. Dub will be able to co-sign this, a lot of times we're seeing, instead of us doing things to change the quality of life and how people will see Indiana, we have a tendency to lower the barrier of entry to a specific field to, I'm not going to say it cheapens or lessens it, but if the standard was 80 and then you lower the standard to 60 because people aren't coming here, are we really getting the best and brightest? When you were seeking out employees, or if you were seeking out employees, how did you attract them? Did you attract them by lowering the barrier of entry, or did you try to recruit the most talented people you possibly could?
Well, it's a good question. I will say one thing that I found that was really interesting, and I learned this from somebody with the chamber, was that because I don't like to come in last. I don't like the fact that we're always having Indiana come in last in so many ways,
Right.
or at least close. But you hit on it, is that we are the 7th highest importer of students because we have so many excellent universities and higher education programs in the state of Indiana. Yet we rank 47th, I believe, in keeping those students here. And because we have such a significant workforce shortage, we have the pick of the litter to keep them here. We've got to find ways to keep them here, knowing that we don't have oceans, knowing that we don't have mountains. We've got to keep, there is a really great ways that I think that we can find ways to keep young people engaged and want to offer Hoosiers something else.
And are you, and both of you guys, are you seeing where when you're talking to either your employee or your student or fellow faculty members who, like what they have to, what Indiana has to offer as far as economics, right? Low cost of living, compared to our big sister, Chicago, obviously, right? It's centrally located in a place where you can get anywhere within 5 hours car drive, right? Are they telling you guys, Dr. Dub, that it's the legislation, not just culture wars, yes, they got that, but the legislation that hinders their, or is a decider for them not staying in Indiana?
Well, for me, the biggest thing that I hear from my students is we're just not offering competitive wages.
Wow.
I mean, we have been trying to figure out how to make healthcare affordable in our state for as long as I've moved here, and I've been here for 2 decades now. But yet we're not able to, so we have these exorbitant hospital stay costs, medical costs. And you would think the correlating thing is that, well, we must be paying our healthcare providers very well then. It's not the case. That is not the case. And so Indiana has been used as an experiment in order to see how high we can get those healthcare costs so that we can continue to run our healthcare institutions like a business. And when you take the heart and soul out of somebody, you cannot provide compassionate care. And you're seeing that. These medically complex children, women's rights, elder care. We are not caring for humans. We're caring for industries.
And that's a sad state when you don't care for humans. But Tiffany, how do we, you mentioned that we can find solutions, but how do you talk to, and maybe this is a question for Doc, but how do we talk to these folks who are in the supermajority about the needs of the people? Maybe Dr. Dub, maybe that's a question, you're in there and you've had to, I'm certain you had to bite your tongue a time or two, especially when you pass some folks in the hallway. How do you make the pleas? Because sometimes that's what it is. We damn near got to beg these fools to care for people.
Well, numbers don't lie. And as a researcher, I am confident in the data that my studies produce. And so when I'm trying to plead with my friends across the aisle, I show them the numbers. And Tiffany already mentioned a statistic regarding education, 47th in the nation. We can name any sector: access to healthcare, mental health providers, public education rankings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And these numbers don't lie. We all cannot be delusional.
No. But Tiffany, have we lost the ability to see numbers now? Do the people we have elected to office, are they incapable?
No, and I do think it's important. It's important to do your research. I think it's important to do your research, talk to your constituents, and just be a good broker of democracy, honestly. I think that one of the things we're talking a lot about this cycle is just having some effective legislation back, having some checks and balances, because we've been without it for a long time. And I think if we can get there, and if we can have that, if we can get out of a super minority, we will have the opportunity to have better discussions. I have been meeting with several physicians because, like Dr. Wilburn said, this is a problem at every single sector, a workforce problem. It's in the healthcare sector with some of our most educated doctors. It is with people who are laying floors. It's happening within every sector that I've talked to. But interestingly enough, I had dinner with a doctor last night, and she happens to be an OBGYN at IU Medical Center. And there is a problem with just recruiting. So yes, I do think there are options, but unfortunately it comes down to, honestly, sometimes where our state stands with certain legal issues.
And that is so important. That is an important point to make. Democratic Women of Indiana. Hoosier Women Forward Class 7 application period opens May 7th, 2024.
Hoosier Women Forward is changing the future of Indiana. In a state where half the population is women, only 27% of our elected state house officials are women. That's why we're empowering women to take the lead, run, and win.
This program not only equips women with the skills to be leaders in our communities, It builds a strong network and sisterhood who continue to inspire one another to grow and lead in boardrooms, corner offices, and elected positions across the state.
Indiana Hoosier Women Forward program is one of the best programs I've ever been a part of. It's really important for the next generation of female leaders to apply to Hoosier Women Forward. The amount of experience and expertise that we've been able to have access to has been life-changing.
I am so proud to be a member of Hoosier Women Forward's sixth class of leaders who are changing the political landscape of our state.
What this organization means to me is that I have a lifetime network of hardworking, determined, fierce women in Hoosier Democratic politics that will always have my back.
Being a part of Hoosier Women Forward has been amazing for the last several years. As a former candidate for the Indiana State House, the policy knowledge, the personal connections, and really just the sisterhood of women in Democratic politics has meant so much to me.
I really have enjoyed the Hoosier Women Forward program for a lot of different reasons, but the biggest reason for me was really that personal woman empowerment.
Something that I've really liked about being a part of this class and being a part of the Hoosier Women Forward network and group is that, one, I get to be surrounded by passionate women who are committed to making our state a better state for everyone.
I would encourage any woman, any Hoosier woman, to apply for Hoosier Women Forward because you're going to be inspired and you're going to have a group of sisters to always encourage you and help you along the way.
To apply, visit our website, www.HoosierWomenForward.org/apply. Application period closes June 18th, 2024. Democrats, are you looking for an affordable digital content creation solution? Then look no further than Black Pearl IT Solutions and Black Pearl Studios. Indiana's own Dana Black is providing many of the communication wraparound services any Democratic organization needs. No matter the size of the budget, Indiana's own and Black Pearl Studios have you covered. Just scan the QR code or visit www.blackpearl-its.com. Indiana's own Dana Black. Turn left. I am talking to Dr. Victoria Garcia Wilburn, the current incumbent in House District 32, and our challenger, Tiffany Stoner, candidate for Indiana House District 25. All right, Tiffany, you win the election because I'm claiming it. And, you know, Org Day, you got to start getting bills together. Tell me your top 3 bills that you are going to introduce when you get elected. Because it's got to happen. There's 3 issues that when you're knocking on doors, you're talking to people about. So talk about those issues.
Okay, let me talk about the first one.
All right.
Because this almost makes me a little bit nervous because I hate putting the cart before the horse, and I've got to find some wood to knock on. But I think ballot measures is so important to me. If we could actually let the electorate vote on issues, I think we'd be in a different place. If we could let the electorate vote on perhaps women's health and abortion, I think we would have been in a different place. We've seen that across other states where
red states too.
So ballot measures probably is the number one issue to me. I will say the other thing at the doors I have heard is property taxes. And so there was a bill that was presented by J.D. Ford not too long ago that didn't really get any traction, but having a cap for property taxes on 65 years and older that are at a fixed income, I think would be really interesting to research and understand better, especially how it would affect our public school systems. But that's something that I've talked to a lot of elderly about. And I think that in my particular area, they are getting priced out of their homes. Zionsville happens to be a very high property value. Our properties have increased in value so much that they're getting priced out of that. So I would say that would be a second for me.
I love it. Okay, Doc, I'm going to ask yours just a little bit different because you've already been there. Tell us a piece of legislation that you are most proud of and something that you were incredibly disappointed in that you couldn't get heard.
The one that I couldn't get heard, let's start there because I like to end on a high note. Currently, Indiana has a lifeline law, and that is for minors who are intoxicated to the point that they need medical attention. This is top of mind for me because I have, a child heading off to college, and we all remember what those days were like. And in fact, when you're a young adult, your brain actually isn't fully developed. I just want to remind people of that. And so, we hold these young adults accountable, and their brains are still developing. But neither here nor there, this was really out of a story out of my constituency, Rachel's first week. And Rachel, unfortunately, was intoxicated, and her friends were terrified to call for help because they thought we were all going to get in trouble. We're drinking underage. I'm glad to see a dip in overdose rates, but there is more work to be done. And so I proposed last session that we extend the Lifeline law to include first level offense of overdose. And I worked very hard with Superintendent Doug Carter, prosecuting attorneys council, et cetera, to get this just right and palatable to be heard. And so it would have kept the dealer laws very stringent. It would have allowed diversion for those that were there during the suspected overdose. And it would have allowed the person who overdosed to find a pathway towards recovery, which is really what's important. And it was a short session. As you know, I had to pick one. The chairwoman asked me to pick one of the two bills, and I chose the fentanyl test strip bill to get heard, which, in my opinion, had a great run. Goodness gracious me, if Florida can get fentanyl test strips to be decriminalized, I'm really shocked that Indiana is only one of 7 states left to not decriminalize test strips. Passed nearly unanimously through the House and had so much grassroots support by Hoosier Action. It just did not get a hearing in the Senate. And it didn't get a hearing in the Senate because of stigma. And so I'm going to be working just as hard this summer to convince my friends in the Senate that this deserves a hearing. I was very proud of the Republicans that came forward to help me champion that bill in the Senate. That was not lost on me, but we just didn't get it right this time around. And I'm hopeful that they'll allow me a second opportunity. Obviously, Dana, I already spoke about the bill that I'm so proud about. In this next session, I'm going to be working towards finding sustainable long-term funding for the mental health and suicide prevention training for law enforcement. I mean, to really understand the Cinderella story of that bill now after this last session, I mean, that was a fairy tale. That really was a fairy tale as a first term, wet behind the ears legislator getting this bill heard and championed by some of the greats. I mean, Senator Kreider helped me with this bill, could not do it without Senator Cordora. Also, just real champions, real legends in the State House came behind me and helped see this thing through the finish line. And next session, I want to be really working hard with Ways and Means to make sure that we have long-term funding. We have right now about $2 million dedicated to rolling that out. We rolled out completely in 25, but I promised my brothers and sisters in fire, police, and EMS that we would work very diligently to find sustainable funding for this so that no officer, no EMS, no firefighter, no matter how big or small your agency is, can get the help that they need.
One of the interesting things about the two of you, Dr. Dub, you're in Hamilton County, and Tiffany, you're over in Boone County. These are two of the more affluent counties in our state, and we recognize that. And, tip of the hat, the folks up there make money. They work in Indianapolis, but they make their money and they go home. Okay, I'm just saying, get that Marion County love. But the needs in Boone and Hamilton County are drastically different than what you may see in Lake County, Allen County, Vanderburgh County. But when you're a state legislator, it's your responsibility to look out for all of the state. How are you both able to, recognize that you are in great positions being in Hamilton and Boone County, not necessarily electorally, because, it's tough. But I mean, from a financial perspective versus, and how do you keep yourself grounded in seeing the needs of others? Tiffany?
Yeah, I think that's an important point. And I know that even my team this morning was saying, I am from Zionsville, and I am going to have to kind of answer to that along the way of the campaign, because not everybody is of the same ilk and kinds. So I think the biggest thing, what I'm doing, is that I am spending time going to absolutely every town in my district and talking to people and sitting down with people. Every week, I do office hours at either a library or a local business in Claremont, Brownsburg, Lebanon, Whitestown, and Zionsville. So I rotate on a weekly basis. And I am making sure that gets out there. And even if one person shows up, if two people show up, I'm really having quality, important conversations. And I'm hearing about things that I wouldn't necessarily have privy to. So it's, I think the more that you can make yourself available and the more that you're willing to not just listen, but listen intently and make some threads of commonality and understand really what the issues are. Just like Victoria and I say, you know, what are we talking about around the kitchen table? Those are the kinds of things that are important to people.
Dr. Dub?
You know, Dana, we're really not all that different, suburban, urban, and rural. We're all paying the same expensive gas.
Mm-hmm. The highest, one of the highest gas taxes in the nation, by the way.
Mm-hmm. We're all breathing the same dirty air.
Mm.
And we all are being paid less than we should.
Mm.
So it's really not that difficult. I mean, and that's what I have to remind people. In fact, when I talk with my rural colleagues and on the other side of the aisle, you know, sometimes they want to do a little jab here or there about diversity. And I say, because diversity, Mr. Representative, also means low income and rural.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you're not for diversity and inclusion, you're not for your constituents. And so I will tell you that the endorsement that I was most proud of this primary was my Indiana Farm Bureau's endorsement.
Yes. Come on.
I really was, because Indiana is still an agriculture state.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're not taking care of our farmers, if we're not making sure that the people that help harvest their crops are in safe housing, being paid a good wage, and working with their farmers to produce profit, which is the backbone of America still, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I will say that was just a tip of the hat to me to say, you understand the issues of our state. And so I'm just really believing that I will earn this seat again from voters. I have done the hard work. I will continue to do the hard work. I will continue to show up. And one of my volunteers said the most incredible thing that I think has ever been said about me is that I treat my constituents like my family.
Love it. Love it.
And I'm a mama that's going to go to bat for my kids.
I love it.
So
you brought up something. You brought up something I wasn't going to touch on, but I kind of got it now. You know, every gubernatorial candidate that was running to be our next governor said that I'm going to eliminate DEI. And, you know, it's already evident that they're not, you know, the representatives and senators who are from rural areas haven't been putting enough attention on the needs of their rural communities, i.e. getting rid of wetlands, i.e. not having health care, a whole bunch of things. But the idea that, what is it with those guys, man? What is it with them that they don't like diversity, equity, and inclusion? Because diversity is also diversity of geography, diversity of economic backgrounds, diversity. I mean, what is with this? What is it with these guys? What are they? Can I just be frank? What are they scared of? That's you on Dr. Dub. Come on. You know, you're a woman of color. I know you know.
Well, here's the issue. Give me something tangible. What is, when you are spitting vitriol and hate, your policies will reflect confusion and disorganization for the good of no one. I want a governor. I want a senator. I want somebody who's giving me real solutions to the issues that we're facing every single day. When you tell me these slogans and these taglines of border and DEI and all of this vitriol, that tells me that you are actually unaware of what you will do.
And you know what, Tiffany, one of the things about affirmative action, which got voted down by the Supreme Court, was where white women were benefiting from affirmative action. But if our state house and the leaders in our state are like, we don't want any diversity, what does it say for women in general? Tiff?
Well, I think that I come from a place where I think that if there were more women who were at the table and were making decisions, we'd be in a different place. I think we come at issues differently. I think we come at issues more holistically. And so I'll say as a feminist and somebody who I believe in strong women, I think that we've got to have that. But going back to your D&I question, I think that I would much rather be in a room with diverse thought and diverse people, because I love being around people that challenge my thinking and that challenge where I have just where I have come from to make me think differently. And so without that diversity, you're just around people, you're just promoting groupthink. Yeah. And I don't think groupthink is good for anybody.
I mean, I just don't understand the idea of these folks not wanting to be challenged. I mean, I thought that was like the greatest thing about growth. And I'm not talking about, height growth. I'm talking about human growth and the way we process things. I just don't understand the idea that we want everything, because Carmel, all the buildings look alike. And I'm like, why does the Taco Bell look like the McDonald's? That don't make sense to me. But because there are people who literally believe if you are different, then something is wrong. And we've got to change that mentality. One of the things that I want to touch on real quick, and this is not to deflect from how you women are as amazing women, but you both are married to servicemen, one in the military, one served in law enforcement. And I actually knew Chris before I knew you, Dr. Dove. Me and Chris worked at the state house in the city county building together. What about being a spouse of someone who is willing to put their life on the line on a daily basis? How has that helped mold you into leaders? Because you have to, you got to compartmentalize sometimes, the sirens go off or to get the call that they got to be deployed. What does that do for you as an individual? And how have you grown being the spouse of someone who serves like that? Tiffany?
It's interesting because I feel like you just do what you need to do. And because it has been such an integral part of my life, I'm not sure I've ever made those distinctions, but they are very, very real. When my husband was mobilizing for his deployment to Iraq, we had a going away party, and he knows me well, very type A, and he said to everybody in the room, he said, "This woman will drown before she asks for help."
Wow.
And unless he would have said that, I probably would have, but I took it as a challenge, and I'm like, oh, heck no. And then but it opened my eyes, because what it meant was that I needed, in the times when you are sometimes the most vulnerable and when you need the most help, that is when your community steps up. And mine did in so many ways. And I've always wanted to try to kind of give that back. But I think that, having a husband that has been deployed and has been gone, the one thing that we did during that deployment, because it was during the surge in Iraq, and so you were hearing about Blackhawks being down all the time, right? In fact, we had a movie called Black Hawk Down. Yep. So in the news, it would cycle. And so during that time, we, it was 2007, right? So the technology was a little bit different. And so we created a blog. And it was kind of a he said, she said blog. And so when big headlines came out like that, as Tim being the commander, he would not want to get continuously inundated by parents and loved ones. So we just created a blog that said, hey, we're all okay. We're all going to be fine. And then On the other side, I was kind of telling the story of what it was like to be behind. And so I think they're very separate stories, but they're very integrated, and it's really important to tell both sides of the story, because I do feel like military families and spouses and families of the police and fire, we all have a public service duty, and we do all serve.
I love it. Dr. Dub?
Yeah, patriotism, love of country, serving in public safety capacities, those don't belong to a party.
No, they do not. Absolutely.
I want to say that real loud and clear.
No.
Please.
And so one of the things that I really wanted to be very vocal about was my support of my husband and his profession, his former profession, because those have been hijacked to mean one party. And so we have to rewrite that narrative because there are so many of us that don't like that. Don't appreciate that has just swung just to mean because you are patriotic or because you are law enforcement, you must be this. And that's, our country's better than that. Our country was the great experiment, right? And so how can people with different opinions and professions and religions and genders and et cetera, can we all coexist in peace? And there have been so many attacks for us to be divided that I wanted to make certain that I would put front and center the things that united us. Because when Chris would step out of his police car, guess what? He's got your back as somebody who called for help, and he doesn't care who you voted for. He doesn't care what you look like. He doesn't care about how much money you make. He got out of that car, and if you called for help, he was going to be there to help you.
I love it. And he can sing. He's done a few Pacer games along the way. But what I have to tell you, you're right. They do want us to, they don't like the narrative, or they only want the narrative that, Black folks, people of color don't like the police. So much true story. When I was working at the city county building in the IT department, I don't know how to stay in my place, and my mouth is big. So not everybody likes that, right? So I think my leadership was trying to set me up to see if I could be successful, thinking that I wouldn't be. And they gave me IMPD as my customer. You have to, as an IT business analyst, that's your job. You be the go-between between the tech people and the end users. And at one point they asked Chief Roach, like, yo, is Dana okay? Do you want us to give you somebody else? And Chief Roach was like, nah, we love Dana. Because what am I going to do? Go around talking about F the police at work? What did you think I was going to do? Because that's what they want. That's the narrative. And even some of us are caught in those stereotypes. And you're right. Patriotism isn't just about flying a flag. It's not just about standing up for the national anthem. Love is about criticizing what something is. If your child makes a mistake, are you going to go, it's okay, you didn't even make that mistake, and then let them keep living in a world where they think they can do no wrong and not improve? So my criticism of America is always that we can be better, because you promised us in the document you said we the people, and you didn't give me no caveats. So let's make it better. I love that, y'all are very family oriented. You got kids that do the gymnastics and flip around and tumble on their heads and stuff like that.
I will tell you this, Dana, though. Here's something that's really important to know. And that is, we have several candidates across the state that have a military connection. We have several veterans, Democratic veterans, that are running for the State House. And so that
I've interviewed a few of them.
It isn't owned by one party. You're right. There are some connections, and we all are patriotic.
I even, this cool thing about our party, we have a minister running down in Bloomington. They want to hide the same thing with religion. They want to,
yes.
They want to hijack religion, but we got a minister running, and he even admits, but then I saw what Jesus said, and that ain't what Jesus said. I love it. Guys, there's an opportunity for us to really make some changes. And if we don't do it in this election cycle, we are going to be in a world of hurt for years to come. And redistricting is only 6 years away. right? It's not that far away. And we have got to start building momentum. Talk to me about the things you are saying to people to encourage them to be civically engaged and to get out and get registered to vote, and to not just vote for you, but to get out and vote. Dr. Dub, what are you talking about? What are you saying?
Well, I'm saying there's room at my table. You know, I mean, I have a lot of people in my district who are disenfranchised Republicans. They don't know what happened to their party. They don't know if it's ever coming back. And I'm not asking them to be, you know, blue dog Democrat, come on over. I'm saying there's room at my table. I hear you. I'm willing to represent you. Let's talk about what we have in common. Let's compromise where we don't see eye to eye. But most importantly, let's do good on behalf of all Hoosiers, because I know that's what you want. That's what you want from an elected official. And so there's room around my table. You can be an independent. You can choose to say, I'm going to reevaluate if she's going to earn my vote in another 2 years, but I'm going to trust her this year. I'm not asking for lifelong loyalty. I'm saying let's partner together right here, right now, because our democracy is hanging on by a thread. And I have sacrificed so much of my personal life because I believe in this moment. So let's do what communities do best and come together and focus on the positive change that we need to make, and be vocal about the things that we can't yet change because we're in a super minority. But we have to break the majority. We have to.
Yes.
We have to. And I'm going to keep doing that and keep representing my district well. But I think people just want to know that they can belong somewhere, that I'm not going to ask them to provide a blood sample and sign on a dotted line, that I want them to trust me in this moment, and then we'll continue to evaluate. And so there's a place on my team for you.
I love it. Tiffany?
Well, I would say ditto to absolutely everything you said, really. But after knocking on thousands of doors, what I know that people want is they want safe, they want vibrant communities, they want good infrastructure, and they want well-funded schools. And so I am talking more about, I am running as a Democrat, clearly, but I'm talking about issues. And I feel like more people are willing to talk about issues because they're so tired of talking about parties. And they're so tired of the far left and the far right. I truly believe there are more people that are in this
Bell curve, baby.
Middle place, and they just want some civility back, they want some sensibility, and they want effective legislation about issues. So honestly, I have a lot of friends that identify as Republicans, but man, they are behind me not because we're friends, but we share the same values, and we really share the same opinions on issues. And I think that's what it's going to come down to. We had a dismal turnout, as we know, for the primary. I have very high hopes, and data shows that this will be different as a presidential year. But we've got to get people to not vote straight ticket.
Yeah, that would help.
And we've got to get people to actually select the candidates that they want for each one. Hey, heck, even if I'm not your checkbox, check the box. And I had somebody really interesting, a Republican, tell me recently, and I love the notion of this. He said, every time I go to vote, I have a series of check boxes in my head, and I look, and he said, I visually look in my brain and say, okay, does this candidate fill? What check boxes do they fill? And he said, and you don't check all my boxes. He said, but you check more boxes than your opponent does.
Wow.
And he said, that's why I'm going to vote for you. And if people just spent the time understanding where their candidates sat on issues, I think we'd be in a lot better place. And I think less people would be I'll call, maybe the lazy voter and just hit the straight ticket button.
I feel that. And you know what? I love that you talked about knocking on doors. Guys, isn't it, because I ran in District 88, right? Which was in 2016 was the Geist area, Hamilton, and Hancock counties. And one of the things that I loved most about knocking on a lean Republican door was I've never had a politician knock on my door.
Oh gosh, all of the time.
And they feel validated and felt heard, that someone was willing to just take the time, to go talk. And I know you guys have experienced that as well. Because I know that they tell us in training, like, leave the R's alone, but no, they need to know that I'm out here willing to work. And I know you guys are running in those, well, I don't know. I can't call Dr. Dubs the district a red district because she won it, know.
Surprise.
The conversations at the door are so important. And you learn so much, but really, I think the people that are willing to answer the door and have conversations there, you walk away and you've both learned something.
I love it. All right. Guys, can you imagine our hour has gone by so quickly? Tiffany, tell the people where they can find you.
It's super easy. Tiffanystoner.com.
I love it. And I love your last name, by the way, especially since we were talking about cannabis.
You got to play into what you've been given. Yeah, I think I've been a stoner longer than I was a row. So there we go.
And do you have any events coming up?
I do. We are having one we're really excited about. So I'm a summer solstice baby. So I was born on the cusp on June 21st.
On June 14th.
There we go.
All right.
So my team has put together a summer concert kind of in the rural area of Zionsville, and we are having the Carmel School of Rock Band play. And the week before, during your birthday, they are going to be in Rio for a competition. So it's going to be and we're going to have a food truck. It's just going to be a fun night out. I'm excited about it.
Tell us where that is again.
It will be, it's going to be, tickets are on Act Blue actually right now.
I love it. Okay. Well, guys, go to the Tiffany Stoner Act Blue page and get you some tickets to that event, because that sounds wonderful. Dr. Dub, tell the people where they can find you.
Wilburn4Indiana.com and all social media. So,
and do you have
excited and my event plug is we'll have an event in Nora. I do represent a portion of Marion County, and that's going to be June 26th at Big Lug or / The Roost. It does kind of some cool things there, great party room. So we'd love for you to join us. And, I'm just excited that we're keeping this momentum going. And I know that we're just getting started. I can't wait to work with Tiffany next year in the State House. I know she's going to cross the finish line. And we're just going to keep going, and we're going to keep doing the good work that we know that we do, because moms change the world.
Well, that's it. And I believe in both of y'all, and I am really excited about this. You guys are so intelligent. Like you break things down. You're clear and you're concise. You have to pontificate with huge words. You talk in plain language, and that's what gets people excited and motivated. I wish the two of y'all I'm giving y'all luck because y'all need the luck, but y'all are amazing women. Tiffany, did you do Who's Moving Forward?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I got invited, and I just said, hey, I need to get past this November date first.
All right. Well, get yourself next year into Who's Moving Forward. We're going to give you a pass this year. Who's Moving Forward is churning out some amazing women. Dr. Dub was already amazing before she went through it, but she's also an alum. Who's Moving Forward are winning. We're winning races. We're winning as county leaders or party leadership at all levels, and supporting candidates all over the place. So get involved with Who's Moving Forward. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really do appreciate your time. And I know y'all missed knocking doors tonight, but my listeners will love it, and I will catch y'all on the flip side.
Thank you, Ms.
so much. You're a great host.
Take care. Guys, I'm telling you, we have amazing candidates. We have the best candidates, right? You just heard from these phenomenal women. So here's my call to action for tonight. And I'm taking this from Native Land Pie. It's a call to action. The holiday is here. It's Memorial Day weekend. First of all, thank a union for getting us some holiday pays. Hello. Thank you, unions. But also it's about thanking those that have served our country right? Think about the sacrifices that so many have made for our democracy. I mean, people that stormed the beach in Normandy, or those that we lost at Pearl Harbor, or those that we sent to Vietnam or Korea or Iraq or Afghanistan, all the places that we have sent our men and women, young men and women, to defend democracy. Are we going to allow an orange clown to throw all of that away? Are we going to allow his sycophants and his bootlickers to throw all of that away? Because they want a strong man? He ain't really that strong, dude. He can't even stay awake at court. Why are they following this guy? And Senator Mike Braun is the worst of them. I said it. That's why I take my guests off the camera when I'm saying these kind of things, because they don't want to be. But I'm telling you, anytime you rave about getting an endorsement from somebody that's on trial for fraud, has lost a civil case for fraud, and has been hiding documents and classified documents, and has been convicted of rape, why do we want this person leading our nation? So while you're chilling this weekend, eating your barbecue, I'm going to be on a beach. While you are chilling this weekend, think about the people who sacrifice for our democracy and figure out what it is that you can do to help protect it. Because we're no longer talking in hyperbolically. This is real. So get involved, do your civic duty, and find a candidate to vote for, and get out and vote. But in the meantime, enjoy the long weekend. I will be off next week because I am going on vacation, but I'll catch you after I come back. And just enjoy your friends, family, hug a loved one, and I will holler at you next time. Peace.
Turn Left is the property of Black Pearl IT Solutions. Executive producer, Indiana's own Dana Black. Music by www.bensound.com.